Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and in this video, I am going to give you guys my advice for the big three characters inside of the Sith Empire faction. Those three characters are Darth Revan, Darth Malak, and Bastilla Shan Fallen. We are going to be ignoring Darth Malak for this video for two reasons in particular. Number one is that Darth Malak was only available in the hard mode of Conquest, right? So there are even endgame players who do not have him. And if you're early game, you're not even thinking about Darth Malak, you're not putting him in your squad. So those big three characters being Revan, Malak, and Bastila Shan. So we're going to look at their kits. I'm going to explain the mods that will get you the best benefits for them, while explaining maybe for particularly Darth Malak some of the other strategies you can use when it comes to his mods. As always, guys, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what your thoughts are down below. We're going to get into the video. Now, as always, we have to talk about our King, Lord, and Savior, Wampa. I have a contract with absolutely no one that stipulates in every video I must proclaim my love for Wampa. So I'm here to say that I love you, Wampa. You are the furious foe, and you have womped your way into our hearts. All right, now let's talk about the Sith Empire. And we're going to kind of work through this. We're going to start with Darth Revan, because I actually think this is what's crazy, is that even though he's the leader and like the linchpin of those big three, his kit is actually the easiest to understand, right? So we're going to kind of start off with what I'm going to consider to be the stats we want for him, right? The stats we want in this order are speed, right? So we have our speed set. We want offense, and we want health. And I'm going to explain why each of those stats are important and why we want to focus on them in that order, right? So the first thing we're going to look at in his kit is his, right here is ferocity in the Force Storm here. So ferocity is, that when he uses this ability, they gain ferocity, and ferocity is 15% defense and 8% offense and potency per stack, right? So right there, when you see that offense, right, we're trying to ramp his offense because we want him hitting hard, right? He also has his insanity ability, right, which inflicts fear, and if it goes on the enemy in the leader spot, he's obviously going to inflict that on the entire team. We then want to look at his leadership here, which says that they're going to, obviously when they're debuffed, right, Sith Empire, they're immune to turn meter reduction. There's a whole bunch of things in here, but the key pieces are at the start of each Sith Empire's allies' turn, they gain 5 stacks of ferocity. And for each of their own debuffs, they're gaining 15 speed and 10% crit chance. If all allies were Sith Empire, they're gaining another 50% critical damage. Now that means that we can't put people like Darth Talon in here, right? So Darth Talon cannot go in this team because she is not a Sith Empire character. The next area we're going to look at in here is Conqueror, and we're just going to say that right in here he has 100% defense penetration, right? That's important. And then finally his villain ability here, where we want to look at it is if he attacks an enemy that already has Death Mark, Fear, or Corrupted Battle Meditation, he automatically uses his basic again. So keep that in mind, guys, that he is going to be doing a lot of attacks, and that's why that offense is so important to his kit. So there's Darth Revan, right? Just kind of, summarizing again, we want speed, we want offense, and we want health. If you can prioritize offense on him over health, that's great. You guys will see that I kind of went a little bit healthier, but that's just kind of the way that my mods shook out here for him. But we would rather have some offense on him because of how much damage output he can do. All right, next we're going to skip over our Darth Malak there. All right, so Darth Malak. So for him, the stats we want to focus on, whoops, I need to get out of mods here. There we go. The stats we want to focus on for him are protection, speed, tenacity, and health, and particularly in that order. We're going to explain why, right? We're going to look at his kit. So the first thing we're going to look at is his Jaws of Life here that says Darth Malak takes reduced damage from percent health damage attacks, and at the start of the battle, he loses protection and gains that much max health. As you guys know, protection is much easier to stack than health because of the way mods work out. So he's taking this 157,000% protection points and turning that into max health on my Malak, right? So that's the first thing we're going to look at in here, right? The next section we're going to look at is that he gains 35% crit avoid, health steal, tenacity, and defense while he has less than 75% health. This gets doubled when he goes below 50 and tripled when he goes below 75%. So when he's doing all of those things, right, as he's getting, as he drops below those health areas, right, he's gaining all these additional stats that make him that much more difficult to beat because he drops below 50%. All of a sudden, he's getting 70% health steal. It's craziness, guys. Just so crazy how that works. And then the first time he reaches these, obviously this is, the Zeta here, but when he reaches these thresholds, he gains a bonus turn and he uses his Drain of Life here. Drain of Life is he's going to deal 100% max health damage to that enemy, and then he gains that much max health, right? Like that's his health steal, so he's gonna gain that, right? Then it can't be cooldown, it can't be resisted. And then he gains a stack of Dark Infusion, which Dark Infusion is 35% offense per stack with a max of 3 stacks. When he hits that third stack, he's going to start inflicting healing immunity on his basic. Guys, that healing immunity is, when he hits this point, it is so difficult to take out even a lone Darth Malak when he gets that third stack because you're not gaining health. He's hitting harder, stealing a lot of health. It just becomes so hard to take out Malak, right? So brilliant stuff right there in Jaws of Life. Gnawing Terror. This is extremely important. The whole thing in here is that whenever an enemy is inflicted with shock or fear, right, he gains taunt. So he doesn't have a pre-taunt, right? Keep that in mind. He does not have a pre-taunt, but when an enemy is inflicted with shock or fear, he gains taunt. And you remember with Darth Revan, his first move most of the time is going to be to inflict either fear or shock. So Darth Malak is basically going to pre-taunt right away, right? He's going to gain taunt so quickly. We covered Drain of Life. The next thing we're going to look at here, just in his special here, he can deal damage to a target enemy, dispel buffs, and inflict shock. So we're going to get into, I'm going to show you the mods for Malak, and I'm going to show you 2 other ways to mod him, right? So this dispel buffs and inflict shock, well, if he inflicts shock on that enemy, he's going to then gain taunt, right? So one of the tactics to beat this Darth Revan team was to use a pre-taunt. However, Darth Revan and Darth Malak have the same base speed. So if you mod your Malak for speed, I'm just going to use a random example here. So I can mod him for speed. I would obviously need to slow down my Darth Revan a little bit. But with Darth Malak, I could mod him for speed, have him dispel those buffs first, and then Darth Revan goes and inflicts fear on the entire team, and now your team is rolling, right? So this was a tactic for a very long time to keep your Malak faster than Revan so you could get rid of a pre-taunt. I think that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit just with so many different teams coming out and people being immune to fear. It just kind of, I think has fallen by the wayside a little bit. Now, the other way you can mod Malak is a lot of tenacity, right? This build is really to stop certain counters like Padme, or when Darth Vader was, being used in some weird ways to beat this team. There were ways that you wanted to stack his tenacity so he didn't gain debuffs. Again, I think this is a little bit fallen to the wayside just with different counters and things that have come into the game. In my personal opinion, the best thing you want to do is just make him thick. We want him to be fast, but we really just want him to be harder to kill. The tougher your Malak is to kill, the better off your team is going to be, because at the end of the day, he is a tank. So we want to be making sure that he's modded like a tank, but he's also extremely fast, so we do want to mod him for that speed. So that's why we go protection, speed. Tenacity is helpful. Health percent is nice. Just if we can build some extra tenacity on him, it does help you. So you'll see that a lot of my mods here, we're trying to take advantage of tenacity where we can, along with any protection percent, obviously where possible. All right, so now finally, Bastilla Shan Fallen. So for her, we're going to primarily focus on health, speed, and potency. Now we'll get into all those different things here, right? And then I'll kind of review their kits together and show you how they're intermingling, right? So we're actually going to start with her force bond here. So if Darth Revan is in the leader slot, Bastila and Darth Revan both gain 70% max health and health steal, right? we're just going to stop right here. There's other things in here, but this is the biggest thing. That additional health, 70% max health is huge, right? For my Bastilla Shan, I currently have her modded with 70,000 health. So she's gaining 70% of that, which comes out to like 49,000. So she's at over 100,000 health points alone. That's not even including protection, right? So really, really thick right there. The next thing is her Sith Apprentice, where Bastila and the character in the leader slot have 50% offense or 50% defense, potency, and tenacity, and they gain foresight at the start of battle for 1 turn, right? Which is, huge. And then when an enemy is inflicted with, fear, death, mark, shock, which that's basically the entire Sith Empire kit, they'll gain 5% offense, stacking to 100, right? So that is so huge, right? That they're stacking they're getting additional health, additional potency, and offense. So we're actually going to go to Corrupted Battle Meditation next. And the big thing here is that Bastila can recover protection % for debuffs on enemies, which in Force Bond she'll share with Darth Revan, right? There's a lot of things here, guys, but just bear with me, right? The other thing here, though, the really big thing, is minus 30% crit chance and 30% counter chance. And that is doubled against Jedi, which one of the big teams this team is meant to counter is Jedi Knight Revan, where with Bastila Shan, her battle meditation allows counter chance, so this is a good way to stop them. All right, so next we're actually going to go to her basic. This basic, Inflict Ability Block. Ability Block is probably one of the best abilities in this game because it forces you to use a basic, right? This attack deals 10% more damage and has 10% crit chance for each active Sith ally, right? So if you, right at the start of battle or whenever you use this ability, for every Sith ally that's alive, you're dealing more damage. Wild Lightning. This ability, guys, is one of the best abilities in her kit, and a lot of people just don't understand how to use it. If you remember, very similar to like Fives, where Fives has an AoE with target locks in Fleet Arena, right? That if an enemy has target lock and he targets someone else who doesn't have target lock, he's going to deal damage to both enemies, right? With Wild Lightning, it's the same thing. That if she inflicts shock for 3 turns, but if that target already had shock, she can deal damage to all enemies. They don't need shock, just her target. Her last mechanic here is the Fear, where she's going to inflict it on, one person, the target, and then a random other enemy, and then everybody else gains all these other debuffs, right? There's a ton of debuffs here, and you remember with her Corrupted Battle Meditation, she's going to be gaining protection for all the debuffs on enemies. So the more debuffs on enemies, the more protection she's gaining and sharing with Darth Revan, right? So if we go into her mods, you guys are going to see that I've got a potency set on her, but that it's a health primary. I have crit chance here. I really would like health. I just was prioritizing speed here in this case, but lots of health on her, a speed set. We want her to have survivability. The speed is nice. The potency is really only there just as like a, just in case there's a resist or something like that. Primarily on her basic is where we want that potency. But how do all these kits flow together, right? Like, why are we modding them the way we are? Is we're trying to take advantage of each of their kits working together, right? Where with Darth Revan, they're going to be constantly inflicting debuffs, but the thing is, they're gaining so much potency through all these other little things inside of their kit, right? Where with Darth Revan, I'm trying to think if the potency is coming from ferocity, right? So right here, for every stack of ferocity, they're gaining 8% potency. So if he's got 5 stacks of ferocity on him, he's gaining 40% potency right there. Plus, Bastila Shan and the leader gain another 50% potency, right? So all of a sudden, their potency really starts adding up, right, guys? Like, very quickly, they're gaining that potency. So it's not super important to mod them for tons and tons of potency. And with Bastila Shan and Revan getting that 70% health and health steal, by boosting their health, they're becoming harder to kill because not only is there more health points, but when they deal damage, especially somebody like Darth Revan who's going to be attacking twice in a turn, right? He can deal, like, he's going to gain so much more health through that health steal. So we want to be taking advantage of that, guys, right? We really want to make this team fast because the faster they are, the harder they are to beat, the more turns they're taking, all that stuff, right? This is probably one of my favorite non-GL teams. It's one that we get very early on in the game, guys, and modding them correctly will boost you in this game so much farther, right? You will gain so much more out of your teams if we're modding these characters to take advantage of all these little mechanics in their kit. Now, I know I threw a lot at you in this video, right? I have a Google Doc that I will link in the video description down below that you guys can see, that'll kind of list out some of the key aspects and stats here, talk about their kits and some of the things you want to be paying attention to. If you are still watching right now, you guys know what to do. Wampa is king in the comments. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching. May the force be with you, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.